sunnier than most days. You'll never see the sky if you keep looking down, and if you take the wrong way.
Hello. So as we can see here, we have 4 classes to discuss. First is we're going to be discussing client UI. So the program starts with importing the necessary utilities that we're going to use in this class. So after that, we instantiate the fields that is going to be used for our socket and for our window builder. So here is our main method for the application. We start off with this method. So we try catch, see if there's any errors, and then after that we create a constructor for the GUI. So Kikim will explain on this one. Kim?
So first we will set the GUI where the frame will not be error when it is exit. So we implement the JFrame that is enclosed, and we will set the bounds so that we can put our JPanel, which is our content plane, and set its layout into border. So next we will create another JPanel, which is the panel mark, and we will put it in the north in our border layout. And inside the panel we will create a JLabel, which tells us that it is the USDP chat portal. So the next is we will create another panel again, the panel north south, and we will put that in our panel north in the south area in the border, and the panel north south will be inside the panel north south will be the flow layout, which is center. So next we will add a JLabel and a text field, which are the nickname, and the nickname will be put in our panel north south panel. The next will be our port and our text field, which is then again put in our panel north south. So in the center we will put the JScroll pane, and inside that JScroll pane will be the text area where our log will be displayed. And again we will create another panel, which is the panel south, and inside that panel will be our text field and our J button. So once these are all created, we will create another method, which is action perform. So whenever an action is performed, is that this will trigger some mechanism inside this method, and we will implement the first if statement if we click the start button, and if we click it again, then it will implement the other if, so that it will be stuck.
Methods for start and stop. So first we have start. So basically it will just first is it will catch some errors, then next it will get the port. So first it will get the port from the server. Then next is it will get your client name. It will call the client name. Remember when we have this client name here? I'm sure it was here. Yes, text nickname, I mean. So here, it will call that. Then it will ask for your client name. Then you will type that. Next is the client socket, which is the port. And finally, it will print your nickname. So next is the stop method, which basically just closes your client if it is not closed. See? And that's basically it for the client UI. For the server UI, we have similar code, but it is a bit longer than the client UI. So first we have fields for sockets as usual, and fields for window builder, which is a bit fewer than we have in the client UI. And also we have to show all the imported utilities. Okay. And for the sockets, we have a format for the date and time. So it is expressed in this expression. Next is we have maximum users allowed, so we can change this whenever we want. So let's just set it at 50. Next is for technicalities for the second, and then the main method, we have similar programs. The first is a method named run, which does these codes following. And it also changes, see this code right here, it changes the standard output stream into a new output stream, which is named text area output stream, which to be discussed later. Okay, for the GUI, Kekem will again explain what is inside here. Kekem?
So the GUI in the server is just the same in our client UI, except that this one mainly focused on border layout. So we have created a panel again, and inside the panel will be our JLabel, which is USDP chat server. So again, we will create another J button inside here, which will be named start, and that will be put in our south border. And in our center of the border, we will have the scroll pane, which our scroll pane will be displaying all the text output whenever our client program runs. So inside that is the text area last, which is put inside our scroll pane. So next will be the override method, which is in action performed, so that whenever an action is performed, this method will be triggered. And the first if statement is that if the button is clicked, then our button will be start and it will get a random port, so that our server will run with its socket. And if click again, then the socket is disconnected, which means that our USDP chat server is stopped. So next will be our refresh UI component, where
Okay, so
The UI refreshes.
yes, so the UI refreshes when there is a status change. So what is a status change? For example, if the exit is false, that is a status change. Then it will update the what do you call this, header inside this
Inside
the
the
server.
label.
Mm-mm.
ABATO.
Yes, and if it is true, then it will update to this. So there is two conditions, and that's basically it for the refresh UI. So the next one is start. Very similar to client, except it calls out the server handler, which is down here, which will be discussed. And next is stop, which basically just again closes the server. So this broadcast message is for displaying the number of connected clients. So it displays it in numbers. And this add to logs is for the date and time, which is, I believe, in the foremost text. So the random port method basically just randomizes the port number. So first it calls in the port finder class, which is located in this library, and then it will call this method, find free local port. So once that is called, we will have a new value of this port, and then it will return whatever the value is. So the server handler, which is discussed in the start one. So the server handler is an override of the class run. I believe this is
Runnable.
here. So it overrides that one into this one. So it implements the runnable class from the GRE library, and then it adds all these texts. For example, this is added when you start the program, and this will be the next text, and so on and so forth. If the client exceeds the maximum amount of users allowed, then this will be started. So the client handler is also another class that implements a runnable class in the GRE library. So this will handle the condition if the maximum users has exceeded. So this will be called, and then this is its constructor, and then an override of the run. So a lot. So a lot of codes added. So I will not go into details of these codes, but feel free to look at it. So once we're done with the server UI, the next one is the text area output stream, which will be discussed by Kekem.
So this class will be our text area output string, where it just uses the output string in our GRE library, and in this class the output streams method is inside our text area output string, which is then used to override our write method, so that the output stream will be updated whenever we run our program in the client UI class, client UI Java. So that should be all inside this class. And the next one will be the report finder. This report finder is using a package which is found in alexpanov.net, which can be downloaded using the form.xml. So inside this we have the link that we can use to download our library, which is our Maven dependencies.
So this library will be downloaded once this is added in your project.
So inside this class will be our randomizer of our port, so that our server will function with our randomizer, so that it will be more secured since the socket is randomized. And that should be all in this process. Next, we will be running these two Java classes, which are Java plus server UI is independent, and our client UI is dependent on our
server UI.
server.
So we'll be running these two right now. So first, we're gonna be running the server, since the client is dependent on the server. So this is what the server UI looks like. Next is the client. Do note that we can run as much client as we want. So we can run 3. For example, let's run 3 at a time. So let's open these. So all of these are opened.
Except that the maximum connectivity is only max at 50.
Yes, we set the maximum. Remember that we set the maximum users allowed to 50. But you can also change it in the code if you want. But for convenience sake, we'll just set it for 50. So now let's start the server. So as you can see, the port generated is 19066. So first it displays the time. It's working well. And what we're gonna do next is register ourselves. So first we pick a nickname. For example, Dave. Dave will join the port 19066. So let's start this. And it says here that Dave has joined with a local IP. So next is we can type hi, then it will show up in our screen. So
but it will not show up in our server,
since
that's just a server, and the chat will only happen inside the portal.
Yes, so any user inputs will be displayed in the portal itself. It will not be displayed in the server. The server is only there to run the socket at a given port. So for example, we're gonna have a second user named Wrench, and he's gonna join the port. So we see here that our portal is updated. The first user has this update, and naturally the server also has this update, and they have the same IP.
Since we run it on the same computer, which
Yes.
holds the IP address of our home, which is 127.1.
Thank you for that. And let's say that these two are gonna have a conversation. So say hello. So notice here that the hi is not updated in here because Dave joined first and Wrench just joined. So what's gonna be updated here is his hello. So let's reply. How are you? Okay, so it's fully functional as you can see. Dave responds with how are you, and Wrench sees it. Let's respond with I am fine, thank you. And here we go, a fully functional conversation between Dave and Wrench. So let's say we're gonna add a third one. Let's name it Glenn. And it's gonna join the portal. Start. Hey, the third one has joined and his name is Glenn. We see it in all our portal. So the server, Dave's portal, and Wrench's portal. So let's say I'm gonna have a conversation opener. Let's say a joke. I can't think of any joke right now. Okay, let's just say hi. Hi. So you can see that all three of them has received Glenn says hi, including Glenn himself. So let's show that all three of them can fully function to each other. Hello, how are you, Glenn? Oh, sorry about the comma. Fine, thank you, Wrench. Send and let's include Dave into the conversation. Okay, so it asks Dave's right now. And let's respond with I am fine. Thank you, Glenn. So we can fully see that our
The
portal.
program is fully functional.
Yes, the program is fully functional right now. So what about we don't wanna chat anymore? So let's say Dave just wants to go out to take a break. So let's click stop, and we can see that the server is updated and it says Dave is leaving. So he stopped the portal. And we can also see in our in our client side that it is also shown that Dave has left. So once we close this, it's over for Dave, but we can still join once we click the start. So let's not close it for now. If we type something, Dave will no longer receive it. Should be no longer receiving it. Let's see. So we can see that Dave has no longer received any responses and he cannot type any responses anymore. So that is established. It is working as intended. So let's say I want to join again and both of them will stop. So we can see them both leaving and Dave is alone in the group. Say hello, anybody there? And no one has responded because no one has seen Dave's messages. So what if we stop everyone and then start a new port? So let's say stop here. So once the server is stopped, you can no longer join it. Oh, you can still join it because it is still run. Just that it's gonna be another port when you start it again. So that's how the program is intended. Hey, so again, it's goes to show that our program is running as intended. So that ends my demonstration for this program. I hope you all enjoy it. See you next time.
All the things you don't know. There's so many reasons you should care. Don't stay looking out.